y'all. Still got my knee intact. We are going into my physical therapist, Christiana Marin, Dr. Christiana Marin. We're gonna go check her out. She's gonna evaluate the knee, probably get some grafting done on it, and then go over the whole rehab protocol. Let's do it. It's good.
I'm
good.
How's the swelling looking?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
We'll do a couple of like mobilizations.
I told you I'm made of Anatomical. You know what that means? Anatomical? I'm fucking Wolverine. I'm already better.
He's gonna be in a way better position than pretty much anyone I've ever had walk through here with an ACL tear. All the stuff that you've done for so long has prepared you for this.
You guys don't know, it's Dr. Christiana Marin. You guys probably seen her on my earlier video.
Very early.
Back in the day, but new subscribers, go ahead and give them a rundown who you are.
So I'm Dr. Christiana Marin. I'm a physical therapist down here in South Florida. I work with a lot of Phil's fighters and athletes. I work with a lot of the Miami Dolphins. I work with a lot of professional athletes, but not even professional athletes. I deal with the general population as well. I met Phil almost 2 years ago, which is crazy to think. And we collaborated from a lot of the work that I did up north in New York, where I'm from, with Dr. Michael Camp. And that trickled all the way down here. So it was really awesome for me. So now, Phil's the patient.
I'm not a patient. I am. And I'm not injured. I'm not hurt. I'm just, it's a slight setback. I ain't got no pain.
Your range of motion looks great.
I'm telling you, I don't know what they're talking about.
Come sit here. So Phil is in jiu-jitsu, and pretty much it's a typical ACL. That's why I was very impressed with the way he felt afterwards. Someone had his foot like this. You can kind of feel the laxity in it now. And what Phil did quickly is he turned his knee, quick, instead of using his whole hip. So that's a real typical textbook ACL tear. Yeah. Phil didn't present with that though, and he messaged me after the initial pop, which is what you felt and heard, right?
Yeah.
He had more pain towards the lateral aspect than the posterior part. So initially we thought maybe LCL, but he was able to stand full extension. We thought lateral meniscus because it was more towards the back. So I definitely thought posterior horn. And I wasn't able to test him until he got his MRI. So if we had tested him, we would have done a Lockman's test where you bend the knee slightly between 25, 30 degrees and you push down, and he's got that laxity. You can always test the other side too. So if you want to test, he's got a good restriction there. They do an anterior draw test, but that's not the best test because what do you think? If I were to do this and pull, you have laxity, but a lot of times with the initial injury, Phil's been rehabbing it for about 2 weeks now. There's a lot of swelling and the hamstrings will take over. So sometimes there's a false positive with that, or false negative. On top of that, not only did he tear his ACL, he has a medial meniscal tear, but he tore the posterior horn, which created a Baker cyst in the back of it. So that's where most of his pain was. And then he also has a grade 1 strain of his LCL. In the MRI, it also shows that he has a tibial plateau bone contusion, which is typical because that's where the ACL ends up inserting anyway onto the actual bone. So what we're gonna do today is I wanna do some soft tissue work. His range of motion looks great. He has no lack of extension. His flexion's pretty good. There's no pain at that end range, or a little bit? In the front or the back?
Very little, in the front.
Okay. And then you always wanna compare to the other side. He even doesn't really have too much of quad atrophy at all, which is another typical thing you'll see on an ACL, so Phil's very atypical. We're gonna do a lot of soft tissue work. I wanna open up his hip first. You always wanna open up the proximal joint, especially on the legs, to get blood flow going that way. But his swelling is really minimal since he's been doing the stim, the ice, and a lot of the prehab. And then we'll go in around the quad, we'll do patellar mobilizations, and then we'll also do a fibular mob to kind of decrease some traction. You don't really want to do mobilizations at this point because it's already mobile. But you can do a grade 1 for pain and just some traction in there. So what we already did is we cleared the front of his hip. I opened up into his psoas and his hip flexor. I want to open up the proximal joint so I can get a lot of residual swelling that's in his knee back up through to his lymphatic system. So now I'm just doing some soft tissue work, some ART work into his adductors, both his VMO and his vastus lateralis. And then we're going to try and get into the knee. We're going to start doing some mobs. So I'm just going from, again, proximal to distal and then coming up this way. So I'm just pulling apart the tibia from the femur to allow some residual swelling go down and decrease some pain that he's getting at end range. He's a little bit more externally flared on this right side, and the left side, more internal on the left. So if I'm able to bring a little bit more internal rotation to his rib cage on the left side, I can improve internal rotation of the shoulder on this side. We have a right liver. We have a liver, big, massive liver on the right side. We have a small, flat spleen and a heart that kind of lays on its side. The diaphragm is this one right here. Goes all the way around here, right? And it sits underneath the liver. And this kind of fits the right liver, right? So it's more domed on that side. So now, the fibers of it, the curl fibers which run this way, they attach to the lumbar spine. We tend, because of the massive right liver, we tend to be more rotated on that rib cage to the right and more extended on the left. So we're almost like bound down like this. We walk around like this, right? So with that being said, the curl fibers on the right side tend to extend a little bit longer onto the lumbar spine than the left, and this is a good one to see. So this is the left one. It's a little bit thinner, a little bit shorter. So a lot of what you see with athletes, your general population of patients, is you'll see actually more of like a wing scapula on the left side, a little bit more of a left shoulder like hike up on the left side, because we have more apical expansion on the left front, decreased apical expansion on the right. So technically what we want to do is we want to get that right apical expansion. We want to get the left side posterior expansion, so that right serratus posterior inferior to kind of bound down, so we can kind of realign ourselves here. It's called a zone of apposition. It's like a zone of neutrality. He'd have to squeeze it when he'll squeeze the quad with it when it's on for, let's say, 5 seconds, and then he'll come off of it for 10, so he'll rest. But on this one, it's just gonna be a constant firing.
I got you. All right, so it's a wrap. Finished off with the physical therapy today. Dr. Christiana Marin, truly great and a blessing to have. Check her out on Instagram. What's the handle again?
It's DRCHRISTIANA. My last name.
Holy shit. We'll put that down. We'll put that down on the you got there. All
it's
right.
just my name.
That's a lot. Anyways, I'm sorry about that. Follow along the entire journey. Again, I'm trying to do this so one, I feel like it's going to be a blessing for me because it'll make me a better coach, a better athlete. Then you guys get to follow along the entire, process of what I do, from getting the surgery to the post-op and then getting me back to 100%. Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure the notification. Then hit some comments down below if you want to hear about more on the details on what I'm doing right here. And then also make sure you check out Christiana on Instagram. Thanks again for watching. See you again next time. Peace.
Bye, guys.
If you are a fighter or someone who wants to start training in MMA, listen up. My name is Phil Daru. I'm the head performance coach of American Top Team. I train some of the elite MMA athletes in the world. such as Dustin Poirier, King Mo Lawal, Frankie Edgar, Junior Dos Santos, Edson Barbosa, and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Going to MMA gyms or hiring a personal trainer can get extremely expensive over time. So if you want to get in shape and train using the exact program of the top MMA fighters for an affordable one-time price, check out Fight Ready in the description below.